This never actually happened. Nope, Newton was never hit on the head by an apple, or any other flying fruit for that matter. Ooh. He'll be alright. Ooh. However, falling apples did get him thinking about gravity. Fast forward to 2017 and we've detected gravitational waves, and we're learning more and more about this once mystifying force. And yet we can only observe gravity and have no way of controlling it. No interstellar style eureka moments, no vast Elysium-esque cities floating out in space, not even a magic gravity on-off switch for the International Space Station. All meaning astronauts still float around like complete chumps. For now at least. Ugh. But will we ever be able to create artificial gravity? Well, before we can figure that out, it helps to know what gravity really is. New melons, please! To have gravity, you need to have mass. That's the physical amount of stuff in you. This melon has a smallish mass and produces an imperceptibly small amount of gravity. There's more stuff in me, so I have slightly greater mass and so produce slightly greater gravity, especially after a visit to my local fast food outlet. But none of that compares to the gigantic planet beneath my feet, which is quite literally massive, and so overwhelms the gravity of all the smaller objects around it. Now, gravity is an attractive force, and no, not attractive like Phil, my cameraman, but attractive in a pulling things together kind of way, which explains why when this melon goes up, it always comes back down. The gravity of Earth pulls objects towards its surface at an accelerating rate of 1g, which is the equivalent to nearly 22 miles an hour every second. To put that into perspective, if I threw this melon out of a 10-story building, it hit the ground at nearly 55 miles an hour, which would be considerably messier. And I'm not using my good melon, he's an indoor melon, aren't you, Derek? But the pull of gravity also decreases the further you get from the massive gravity-producing object. For example, the further astronauts get from the Earth, the weaker the pull of gravity, and the less that they are attracted to it. It's interesting to note that the astronauts and cosmonauts we see floating around on board the space station are still close enough to experience 89% of the Earth's full surface gravity. So why are they floating and not falling then, I hear you scream? Well, in actual fact, they, along with the station and everything in it, are falling. But because the space station is travelling forwards at around 17,500 miles an hour, they're falling around the Earth rather than towards it, which is what we know as an orbit. Because everything is falling together, they are constantly experiencing microgravity, just like the feeling of weightlessness you get on a roller coaster. But space is no funfair. If man were to travel between the planets, the journeys would take months or even years, during which solid ground beneath the feet is not only useful, but essential for making sure they still have the strength to walk when they need to. So is there any way of flipping a switch to turn on gravity for such a voyage? Well, no, sort of, but not really. It is possible to use another mysteriously attractive force though, magnetism, to produce something that looks just like gravity. Ooh, magnetism, you saucy force. Using very strong magnetic fields, scientists have managed to overcome Earth's gravity to levitate live mice and frogs, leaving them spinning uselessly in the air. Sorry, Pickles. In theory, if magnets can be used to give non-metallic objects a boost, then they can be also used to pull human bodies to the floor of a spaceship. And the great thing is that magnetism can be generated with electric currents and can be turned on and off like a light switch. Floaty, non-floaty. Floaty, non-floaty. But there is a drawback. To successfully pin a human to solid ground with Earth-like gravity would require astoundingly strong magnets. And no one really knows the effect that such strong magnetic fields would have on a large, squishy body. Add that to the fact that you wouldn't be able to make your spaceship out of any magnetic materials like iron or its alloys, and suddenly this all seems a little impractical and quite frankly, dangerous. But there is a slightly more feasible way of simulating gravity. Since gravity is a pulling force, anything that produces a consistent pull at a 1g equivalent will feel just like home. And one way of doing that is to keep on accelerating. Like in a fast car or a rocket launch, the forwards acceleration pushes you back into your seat. Make the back wall the floor and voila, you're sorted. But there's a problem. All the ways of creating linear acceleration in space that we know about require the continuous expulsion of stuff out the back of a rocket. aka Newton's third law, every action has an opposite and equal reaction. Once you run out of stuff, i.e. fuel, your acceleration drops and you can wave a floaty goodbye to your artificial gravity. But fear not, there is a sustainable way of creating a continuous acceleration using, oddly enough, rotation. Have you ever gone around a corner too fast in a car and slithered across the leather seat to be squished up against the window? Hopefully not. Wear your seatbelts, kids. But that pull to the outside of a corner is caused by centrifugal force, which confusingly enough is not really a force, but the result of your body wanting to carry on in a straight line while the car travels in a curve. Another example. I have here a bucket of water. By swinging it fast enough in a circle, I can produce enough centrifugal force to get the water to stick inside the bucket, even when upside down above my head. See? Bone dry. Now, all you need to do is scale up that circle into an immense ring, keep it spinning at an appropriate rate, use the outside edge as the floor, and the sky's the limit. Well, the sky's the floor, but you know what I mean. This ring would have to be big though. Really, really big. If it's too small, astronauts would feel a huge difference in the force imposed on their heads and what they felt on their feet. They'd end up dizzy and lightheaded because blood would be drawn down away from their brains. So let's put some numbers on this baby. Let's imagine a ring that's 2 kilometers across. With something so large, the rotation needed to simulate an Earth-like gravity is a leisurely 1 RPM, which sounds pretty chilled until you realize that the outside edge is traveling at 224 miles an hour. That's faster than a cheetah. In fact, that's 160 miles an hour faster. Couldn't we have come up with a better comparison? Anyway, chances are, if you've seen or read much science fiction, a spinning gravity ring is yesterday's news. But this is one of those awesome times where the fiction is well rooted in fact, and one day humans may really be walking the circular halls of long-distance spaceships. And who knows, as we learn more about gravitational waves and gravity in general, maybe one day there really will be a magic gravity on-off switch. So there you go. If you want to float any ideas of how to do this, or you're just falling over yourself to tell me something interesting about gravity, let me know in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to subscribe for more science videos.